Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. This is the Finance Committee meeting at 6:32, and I'd like to call the meeting to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and
to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
for all.
Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. On March 28, 2025, Governor Healy signed into law a bill which extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. Specifically, this further extends the public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. The language does not make any substantive changes to open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2025 to June 30th, 2027. Ha. All right.
You got it all out, yeah.
That's just, one paragraph. Try to do it in one breath. Well, hi, everyone. So we're going to continue with our budget meetings for fiscal 27 with the department. So tonight we have 4 budgets to review. We have the fire department with Chief Baldwin, recreation with Dana Stewart, assessors with Theo Gabriel, and planning board with Michael Burris. The plan would be to go in that order, unless anyone has anything specific that they have a commitment and need to leave. But if everyone's okay with that timing, we'll go right ahead in that order. Let me make sure our chief, are you with us tonight? Have I seen you here yet? There's the chief. Hi, Chief. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. We'll let you. We'll start you off with your budget, and I'll let you take over from here.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you.
Open up the meeting by just thanking members of the Finance Committee for your continued support of our department. As you know, we're a growing department. We continue to answer more calls, a wider variety of services every year, and do everything that we can within our power to keep costs down and in order to maintain a safe and effective operation. We've been pretty busy as usual. Already done 200 calls this year. We had a building fire, substantial building fire today on Old Harbor Road. It was Little Compton property, but right on the line. So obviously we were second due, and our guys got in there and did some work. It was a caught fire that extended to the garage and extended into the house. At that time, our ambulance was out, so we did only have one person in this station, which presented some challenges. But we did what we do best, and we make it work. We had, we did a little over 3,200 runs last year, fire and EMS. We did right around 1,800, a little more transports. We presented a level funded expense budget for the year that we're currently operating in. So there was no increase there. We're making that work as best we can. We've had some financial challenges on the expense end this year. We had a circulator fail in the basement of Station 1. It was about $4,000 for the heating system. Vehicle maintenance is always a challenge for us. As I reminded the committee before, we have a fairly decent sized fleet of heavy duty vehicles, diesel trucks. Those are.
Sorry, Chief. You seem to be breaking up.
Expensive to me.
You're breaking up quite a bit.
Maintain our tank,
Chief, can you
which is right
hear
around
us, Chief?
20 years old.
Chief, can you hear us? You were really breaking up. We're only getting about every
Last
other
week we
word
had a
you're saying.
$6,400 repair on that truck. That was pretty big. So that was a little bit to the line, again, being level funded.
Chief, are you able to hear us? Oh, we might have just lost the chief, maybe. I think we lost the chief. While he's coming back, let me take a second because I do this every single meeting and totally forget to announce all our committee members that are here. So tonight we have Finance Committee members Duncan Law, Hugh Morton, Al Lees, Zach LeBrew, Gary Carrero, Christopher Thrasher, Nancy Stancross, Cindy Brown, and myself. So we have all 9 members with us tonight. So I always fail. I always fail to forget to do that at the beginning of the meeting. But
Karen, did you mention
Yeah.
Duncan Brown, Duncan Law, rather?
I did. He was the first one I did mention. But thank you. Duncan Law is here. Thank
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's better.
I'm at the station, so I guess we're having an internet issue. So I'm gonna keep my camera off. Maybe that's just too much bandwidth.
Yes.
So we'll start with just the voice. So I'll recap. I'll summarize. Again, we thank the committee for all your support over the years. The added staff member last year. We came in level funded on the expense side. We're making do as best we can. We have had some substantial hits this year. We always have obviously your day-to-day operations expenses. We do run 2 fire stations. We have a heavy fleet of diesel apparatus. Equipment needs to be ready to go. We're in the business of saving lives and protecting property. So, our equipment, when it's in need of repair, it's not something that we can just shelf. We try and do those repairs in-house to keep costs down, but obviously we can't ignore the need to keep our equipment ready to go. We had a $6,400 repair to the tanker last week. That truck, all in all, honestly, it doesn't cost us that much. It is 21 years old. That was an out of the ordinary expense. That one hit a little hard. A circulator in the HVAC room for the hot water, not the hot water tank, but the boiler, that failed. That was $4,000. And our elevator is currently out of service. And the repair estimate on that is $16,000. So we're working with the town administrator and the town's insurer to see if that's something that can be covered. Hopefully keep the cost down. Clearly my budget, especially coming in level funded, doesn't have an extra 16. I think we're actually down to around 7 in the building line. So I clearly don't have it, but that discussion continues to be had. Actually got in touch with the claims adjuster earlier today. And we actually had a building fire. I'm not sure if you guys caught that part of my opening, but we were at a fire for most of the afternoon on Old Harbor Road. So I didn't get a chance to call him back, but he did get an email. So we're working on that. Again, 3,200 runs a year, a little bit more. We're up to 200 runs already since January 1. So we're averaging around 10 calls a day. So for a small department, we stay busy, whether it's not station maintenance or just calls in general. We put this budget together. This year was a little bit earlier than normal. We were asked to start working on it in August, which, is fine, but I always find it's a little bit of a challenge because we're only, 1 or 2 months into the fiscal year that we're currently in. And, how do I really know where we're going to end up by the time the year's over? For example, we do a pretty strong analysis of our week-to-week expenses, and I have what I just labeled a year-over-year expense sheet that I have, and it tracks week to week our expenses. So heat this year versus last year, where were we? Are we up? Why are we up? Are we down? Good. Why are we down? Etc. So we're noticing heats up. I'm sure you guys as homeowners are noticing heats up. It's been a fairly cool or cold winter, but those costs continue to rise. We were asked to come in level funded again. I didn't seem to be as a strong of a stance as last year. But again, always trying to work with the town when it comes to our budget. We're only up about 13 on the expense side, and those are real costs. If you'd like, just let me dive into my computer here. Just for anybody that's new on the committee, how the Westport Fire Department operates. We are all firefighter paramedics, every one of us. So what does that mean? It means we're dual role. In your city, you pay your firefighters, and then you pay your EMS people separately. In Westport, you get two for the price of one. If the phone rings or well, we don't really use the phone anymore with modern technology, but if the tones go off, the medical, we get in the ambulance. If the tones go off and it's a fire, we get in the fire truck. So we currently have 2 fire stations in town. They're staffed at a minimum of 2 in each station. Our strongest shift has a complement of 6. 2 shifts now actually have 6 firefighters. 2 have 5 firefighters. Our goal, as you know, for 20 years has been to have 4 6-person shifts. The time for us to have 4 6-person shifts has come and gone. That was a long time ago. We are behind the 8 ball every time we go out the door. We are understaffed. We are struggling to meet standards. My goal as a chief is to make sure everybody goes home safe and in one piece. And it's very tough for a town like ours, especially 64 square miles, to sometimes put it together with what we have. And, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say how often our members drop what they're doing at home and respond in to make it work. Yesterday we had multiple calls in a row, rollover on Route 6, fire alarms and medicals. Guys ran in the station, grabbed the trucks to get to the additional calls that were coming in, so we didn't have to rely on mutual aid. And they're very good at that, and that's just, again, just what we do. We were pretty busy actually over the weekend, mainly with the storm. We had a couple of rollovers, some vehicle extrications, et cetera, car fire. I'm just looking at the log quick while I talk to you. So we will dive into our requests for the year, and I'll do this in order. So on the personnel side, I'm not sure how you want me to do this, if you want me to go line by line, but you have some increases with the department head, assistant department head, administrative assistant. Those are all in the direction either of the town, you know, with the non-union personnel and personnel bylaws. Call firefighter increases minor, just to, we have about 9, excuse me, we have about 9 call firefighters right now. So we just basically took the dollar amount that was in there and 3%, and that brought us to the new total. The biggest request that we have is for 1 to 2 new hires. 2 new hires would finally get us to where we really need to be, which is 4 6-person shifts. That comes at our price tag. This is including the regular CBA increases for the existing members. That would be $219,118 for 2 new hires. 1 new hire would be $145,740. Again, that number includes the contractual obligations for the existing members. And no new hires would be the contractual obligations on the professional line, which is basically salaries alone, is $72,361. I want to update you as much as I can. I don't have, unfortunately, have a strong update, but last year I did mention to you folks that we were looking at something called the CPE audit involving Medicaid. We've been asked many times before to find creative ways to make our budget work, to bring on this extra staff. We found a creative way. There was some, you know, I know there was a little bit of skepticism whether or not it would work. We did the preliminary worksheet, we turned it in, and the dollar amount came back to $150,000 in additional revenue. I want to say it was like $150,900 and change. We're waiting to hear back on that number. It was submitted in October. Typically around the first of the year, you get they kind of kick it back in just, you know, they ask questions, especially this year being our first year, verify this, verify that. No Bristol County chief has heard back yet from the auditors. Haley did put out an email today, and she did hear back that our request for reimbursement, Medicaid reimbursement, in addition to the revenue that we bring in through billing, is currently under desk review. So it is moving forward. Again, the preliminary worksheet showed $150,000. Can I guarantee that's what it'll be? No, it could be $150. I just don't know. This is our first year doing it. Talking to other chiefs, the worksheet, the preliminary number that you get in the worksheet is usually pretty in line with what you actually receive at the end of the year. So that 150 would certainly help to offset the cost of new hires. And again, new hires also potentially puts a third ambulance on the road more often than not, bringing in more revenue, less mutual aid requests, which is revenue that we lose, stronger and safer community, better service, which the taxpayers deserve and expect from our department, which we try very hard to do. So that's probably one of the bigger line items there. Scrolling down a little bit more to overtime.
Before you, could I just ask a question before you go? Because I'm not clear on your, so how many positions do you have in your budget, and how many positions did the town administrator agree to in that budget? And is there a discrepancy still that you are looking for more than what's in the budget? I'm just not clear where that stands.
I requested 2 additional personnel to get us to 4 6-person shifts. He sent me back his budget worksheet, which I would assume you're in possession of. And he approved tentatively 1 additional firefighter. So it looks like he gave us the funding for 1 new hire, which would bring us to 3 6-person shifts and still have 1 at 5.
So
That was the previous town
Okay.
administrator partner.
Okay, and so you would still feel you would need one more than what's in the budget. Is that
100%.
correct?
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay.
You know, I don't want to go on too much tonight because I know we tend to take up a large chunk of your meetings, but just from an operational standpoint, to have 1 shift at odd from the rest when it comes to policy and procedure, just makes our interruption, our general orders, our standing operating procedures, our policies, our training, everything that we do, having an oddball shift, not with 2 oddball shifts, it just, in addition to the delivery of services, it just makes it very difficult to have 1 shift. Okay, well, when you guys come in, we're going to do things completely different, because believe it or not, and you'd have to do our job to understand it, having that 1 extra person is a huge difference. You know, you can put 2 guys in an engine, 2 guys in an ambulance when you go into a JAWS call. If I only have 3 people down here, I'm putting 1 person in a fire engine. And that's departments have moved away from that a long time ago, but we still are forced to do it because we just don't have that staff. And even on our backfills, you know, we're still recalling 1 person. So both ambulances go out, and there's the duty crew that's if we're at a 4-person minimum, which is what we operate at, you'll have 1 person covering the entire town of Westport. 1 person. It's, you know, that's we're still behind the 8 ball there. We really should be getting 2 people in. We're not meeting the standards that are out there, and we're just not keeping our members safe, and we're opening ourselves up for risk and liability by not having proper staffing.
And Chief, what's the cost of one additional? Just is
Cost of 1 additional, including the 72,000 contractual obligation for the pay increase, is 145,000. So it's roughly right around 72 for a member.
Okay, 72,000. Okay.
Right around there. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I have a lot of notes on my desk.
That's
and
okay. That's just a ballpark. That's fine.
Right around
And
the
before you keep going, I think Al has his hand up. So I think, Al, go ahead.
I do. Hi, Chief.
Hi.
Just a very quick question. Looking ahead 1, 2, 3 years down the road, how many people do you anticipate cycling off through retirement? Let's say. I mean, where are we going to be if we don't backfill now? Where are we going to be 3 years from now, or where are you going to be 3 years from now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have one retirement coming up in July. And we had 1 firefighter that left us, went to Bridgewater for higher pay and a stronger shift strength. He stood on here as a callman. He likes the fire department. He likes working here, but he needed an increase in pay. Bridgewater has 11 members per shift. So he made the move. It wasn't an easy one. He actually was in my office today, just stopped in and we were chatting, and some things up there he doesn't like. The grass isn't always green on the other side, but he needed to make a financial move for the betterment of his family. So, in comparison with some other departments, we're not the strongest. We don't have the strongest contract out there. So it's tough to attract new help. And we're feeling that, but I will say this, every department's feeling it. I don't know if it's a generational issue. The fire service in general is seeing a decline in across the country in volunteers and call firefighters, people that want to be medics. I think it has a lot to do with COVID. I did a research paper for my capstone for my master's, and it was all about recruitment and retention. And it was right a little bit after COVID, and everything just pointed to that. A lot of people got scared out of the industry. A lot of schools closed up, didn't reopen. There's only a couple of schools left in our area. One of them is in the Cape, so that's a hike if you want to go back and forth there 3-4 times a week to get your medic. Medic program's about 2 years. The cost has risen anywhere, I want to say $10,000 to $15,000, which, in hindsight, if you're going to college to get a degree, it's going to cost you a lot more than that, right? So, but it's still, there's a struggle there. And so we posted a position for a long time, and applicants were far and few between. Some applicants, it didn't even make sense. They were from Florida with no plan to relocate here. I think it was just people almost fishing. I didn't quite understand it. We finally did find a new hire, but he's going to be a short timer. He told me that he's a pre-med student. His resume is unbelievable. He's extremely smart. He loves medicine. He loves emergency medicine, and he got into Florida Fire, working for their EMS division over there. He really likes the fire side of the job. He wants to work in Westport mainly because he wants the longer transport time so he can have more time to work with the patient. But unfortunately, he'll be 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and then I think we'll see him probably depart. But to be truthful, I don't really have anybody else waiting in the queue to hire, and we need bodies. So I got to get him in here. I think it'll benefit our department on the EMS side. I think he'll be a strong leader and somebody that can teach us, and improve our skill sets. But it's definitely a challenge getting people in. So when you discuss looking down the road, I'm already looking at July. I'm already racking my brain saying that if, the finance committee does approve and the town approves and we are able to hire a couple more, what's this process going to be? It is so hard to get firefighters in, and every chief I talk to in Bristol County is dealing with the same challenges right now of getting people in the door. And we've had some applicants, they don't, they're not medics, or they don't meet the standard, and they're living in the Cape. Again, we have a residency requirement here, and the cost of relocating anywhere in Massachusetts right now, as you know, is tough. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We do have some call firefighters. They're excellent. I call them kids, but they're 18 years old. They're adults. They're going to go in medic school in September. So they're about 3 or 4 years out. In 3 or 4 years, we will have 4 or 5 solid candidates coming up from the call ranks into the full-time ranks. One of the benefits of the Explorer program that you guys know that we run, that's a good foundation for developing these firefighters and paramedics up to career jobs. So I really like that. Some of the new callmen we're all involved in the Explorer program, but again, they're 3 or 4 years out. So we do have at least one retirement in July. Looking at the roster as I talked to you, I think after that we'll probably have a couple of years in between anyone else. We are definitely becoming a younger department. A lot of I've been here for 31 years, which is crazy when I think about it. But some of the members that are on the department now, I don't even think they were born when I got on this department. So it's really wild how young we've become. So beyond the next maybe 3 or 4 retirements, there's going to be a pretty big gap in movement on our department. And, we always have to anticipate increased call volume. I think when you hear about all the housing needs in the state, developments like Westport Lakes Drive, which I believe is still going to be moving forward. The ADUs are popping up. I think for a lot of other chiefs, we meet once a month. ADUs are popping up everywhere. I know there's been some already that have come up in Westport, and I think we're going to continue to see those property, those ADUs grow in our town. I don't know a whole lot about the whole Airbnb situation, but I do know, I want to say that I think I heard Mr. Hartnett say there was like 187 registered. So, the Airbnbs are coming popular in town, and those all drive up call volume on the EMS side and the fire side. And when I mention fire, I don't mean building fires. Sure, that's part of it, but there's vehicle fires, there's gas leaks, there's carbon monoxide incidents, there's motor vehicle crashes, there's wires down. There's a general public assist, just assisting, elderly or people that can't, maybe sometimes it's just shutting off a leaking water pipe. We're not plumbers, but we go there and we do that, and we help people out, and can, protecting property is part of what we do. So as you see the population rise in town and housing, developments, call volume will undoubtedly increase. And so, I think that once we get to 4 6-person shifts, I think we'll all, as a department, be pretty comfortable there for a while. And then, we'll just continue to analyze what we do and
Okay.
make recommendations based on this, providing a strong service to the town. And, we'll develop as the town develops, as we have, I'll call our staffing levels up, not as much as it should be, but we're evolving slowly and doing the best we can.
Thanks, Dan.
Before you go, I think we have another question. Someone's raised their hand. I think it might be Gary. It says name not available, so it's Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. I just wanted to, say first and foremost, for everything we've come a long. I think we've come a long way in the last 5 years in trying to get the complement up. It's not 100% perfect, but the same thing that the police are seeing in the academy. You'll get around from the civil service exam. They'll come down, and then they just don't qualify for the positions. I think Al makes a good point to keep tracking this going forward, if in fact there are positions that are vacant or what have you. But as far as the elevator is concerned, shouldn't we be going to the reserve fund for this? Do we have a balance in the reserve fund? This is an unforeseen expense.
Yes, and so I did put a letter into the town administrator requesting possible use of reserve funds. We're trying to, I believe it was Mr. Hartnett that recommended before he left. Actually, the elevator went down right during the transmission of town administrators. And Hartnett said, why don't we try making an insurance claim and see if that's something that is doable. As I spoke to Mr. Vitale, that we'll have to see what the insurance adjusters say and then see if it's worth it. I don't know enough about the town's insurance to see if there's if the premium spikes because of a claim. I just don't know the answer to that, and what the best financial decision would be. Right now, I've given the town administrator the repair work order, the dollar amount, and the request. I'm doing as much as I can on my end. I contacted the elevator company numerous times just to be sure that, because I almost fell over when I got the price, to be sure that this is exactly what is needed. Again, I guess Liberty Mutual, the town's insured. There is an equipment wear and tear, it sounds like, insurance policy that we have, which it sounds like this would fall in line with that. So even if we can drop that request to the reserve account, down to maybe 10 grand or 5 grand, whatever it may be, but that is pending, and everything is actively unfolding now. Just trying to move forward. I met with one adjuster last Thursday, came down, took photos, took copies of their work order, and we're just trying to move forward on seeing if there's an alternative before we use the reserve fund. But that request was put in.
This is exactly what the reserve fund is designed to do, especially the finance committee's reserve fund for unforeseen expenses. So obviously nobody knows the elevator's going to break.
Correct. Plus, we need to be ADA compliant, which we're not right now. Internally, everybody knows if we have to go down to the lobby to conduct business, because of somebody's unable to come upstairs, we'll do that. We do hold classes in the basement from time to time, and some of those offer the public. We're going to hold off on those for now, and if we had any meetings in the building, we would probably contact Chief Dunn and see if we can have a meeting at his building for the time being until the elevator is repaired.
One last question, Chief, that I have is the we got these developments coming in town, and obviously there's a lot more space in Westport to put developments up. How closely do you work with the planning board to make sure that these developments are under spec? I've been down a lot of these new developments, and you couldn't even swing a pickup truck around some of these cul-de-sacs. And I think that we need to look at that going forward and make sure that the main objective is to get apparatus around these cul-de-sacs. Some of them want to plant trees in the middle. They want to put grass. It's great, but the width of some of these roads, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So we do work very closely with the planning board. Our fire prevention officer always does a plan review. We get copies of the plans. We go through it. We make recommendations on everything from, the base. What is the roadway made up of? Making sure that it can handle the weight of our apparatus, where our manhole cover is located, et cetera. and turning radius is always part of that conversation. I can't speak to maybe a development, my parents' neighborhood, Holly Lane, Boysenberry Drive off of Main Road near Bittersweet Farm. That was in the 70s. I can't speak to, what went on, on some of these previous developments, but we are very much involved in anything new that comes in, especially like Westport Lakes Drive. We will go down there with apparatus if needed and test the turn radius. There are codes that they have to adhere to. I can't remember the exact width. I want to say 65 feet is ringing a bell in my head for a cul-de-sac. We will deny certain plantings in the middle of cul-de-sacs depending on the layout of the neighborhood. We ensure that they have fire protection systems in place, which would be a 10,000 gallon cistern every 800 feet once the development exceeds 3 buildings, possibly 4. I think it's maybe 3. So we do work with them, and we are part of the plan review process. We can make recommendations and we can enforce code. Sometimes our recommendations exceed the code, and it does not mean that it will be adhered to, but we'll put it out there as to why we're looking for this, giving certain unique situations, you may be referencing.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Thanks. Great job. Thanks.
Thanks. Chris Vitale, go ahead. Hi, Chris.
Hi there. Good evening. I just wanted to just follow up on something Gary was talking about with regards to the elevator. So, yeah, the chief has provided that information to me. We're doing our due diligence right now to see if it can get covered through insurance. Obviously, if it's something that we as the town are paying for, we'd like to see if we can get the value there. Obviously, we know for the reserve fund, those are limited dollars, and this is definitely something that would qualify under that. But again, if we can come to you with part of the request versus the full request, if any other needs arise this fiscal year, that funding can be available there. So I do anticipate one way or another, whether it's for the full amount or just perhaps for the deductible, that will probably come before the board at a future meeting. But just a little bit of background there. And, the chief, like he said, he's been, working with our insurance provider to see if we can in fact get that reimbursement. So, we're on it.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Chief, I'll turn it back to you. But we do have your memo that
I think,
was very
Nancy,
detailed.
I
And
think Nancy has a question.
And you definitely don't need to read through your whole memo here tonight. But so if there's anything else.
Nancy has a question.
Oh,
Karen.
go ahead. Sorry. So Chief, I'm going to have Nancy ask her question, and then if
Sure.
there's anything else in the budget of significance you want to highlight, or if the finance committee has any other questions, we can do that. But you certainly don't. We don't need you here to read through the memo. We've had it in advance, and it was very detailed. So, but go ahead, Nancy.
Chief, thank you for your report. On your inspections, have you been able to increase your fees for your inspections of commercial properties and new residential properties at all recently?
We have not increased the fees since I became chief. I did look at fees recently throughout the rest of the county, and I want to say with the exception of Taunton, who has exceptionally high fees, we're pretty much in line with everyone else. I'm not opposed to it. If there's areas there where we can, where it doesn't, I don't want to hurt the small resident. Like I know you mentioned commercial. It's something that we can certainly look at, and if you'd like, I can draw a comparison or provide you with a comparison with regards to where we stand. I could be misspoken, but I believe a year or two ago, when discussion of fees, increasing fees came up, I want to say we were told to hold off or stay where we were. I wasn't the chief at the time, but for some reason that's ringing a bell. But I have checked fees often with. I'm actually trying to bring it up right now.
Are your residential and commercial fees the same?
Well, commercial sometimes involves a little bit more plan review. There's a fee there. It's not the same necessarily as a residential. It's a pretty straightforward 26F, $50 fee. So there are some additional fees that come into play with commercial properties, like I said, like plan review, fire alarm, if they're gonna, depending on what kind of building it is, if there's a sprinkler system that's being installed or a fire alarm control panel, there would be additional fees there. Annual fees for those type of buildings as well, where, a single family home is only inspected upon the sale of a, real estate sale. Whereas, commercial buildings, we are in every single year, doing inspections, garages, et cetera, hotels, supermarkets. So
Well,
we
I'm just
do-
trying to think, I'm just trying to understand. So if you're going to inspect a hotel, so
Mhm.
there's a lot more involved. Is it one flat fee or does it get increased because of the amount of time or manpower to do that inspection that has to be done every year?
It is one flat fee. We do not charge for the time. We send the fire prevention officer, goes out with Ralph in the building department. They conduct a joint inspection on those type of facilities and buildings. And we do not have a separate fee schedule.
And so
Or
in your research with other towns, do you look at have you looked at whether they have a difference between commercial and residential properties?
Well, there would be, yeah. So, and same here, a fire alarm, you don't have a fire alarm control panel in a single family dwelling. You don't have a sprinkler system in a single family dwelling. So those two components there, say at the hotels in town, for example, which have both, right off the bat, there's more fees involved. Any kind of sprinkler work, hot works, welding will draw a permit. Fueling stations will draw a permit annually. But there's not a whole lot.
How long do you lose the service of an officer when they go out for an inspection? An average inspection for a residential property?
Well, that's what he does full time. So he works Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. And depending on the size of the building, depending on how long he's there, the more he goes through it, the more familiar he becomes with the building, the quicker he can get the inspection done. But that is what he does in addition to responding to fire and EMS calls like he did today. So it's not necessarily an hourly, component. He's a staff employee Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. And that's what he just integrates it in the rest of his day.
And my last follow-up question is, with your ambulance bills, what type of you doing a collection service or is the town still being its own collection service?
No, we're still collecting on our own. I know you and I discussed this last year.
We did.
It's still something I debate in my head. I've talked with some other chiefs and I just don't know. I don't know at the end of the day with the fee that the collection company takes, which is 4%, and then the pressure that they put on the resident, to pay outstanding balances. Part of me is just not that comfortable with that. And I know that the town needs money, but I don't want to press an 80-year-old single individual that's struggling to make ends meet with a bill. Now there are hardship forms and there are waivers that we can implement. It's a significant process. It would be a dramatic change for our residents. We actually just talked about this last week. I was talking with the Mansfield Fire Chief about it, and I asked him how he goes about, waiving off fees, co-pays mainly. And there is a process. It would be a change for us. So if that's something that town wants me to look at further, with the understanding that, it may not go over that well with our residents, I'll do my job and look into it further. But I just want everybody to understand that, it may not be well received.
How much, do you refer to it from year to year when you have unpaid bills? Is it considered like a bad debt that you carry on your books from year to year?
Yeah, it's generally waived off at the end of the year. In accounting terms, I actually just talked to Haley. We were just talking about this the other day. I'm not sure what they do at town hall or how they swipe it, remove it from the books.
So every year you start at zero?
Every year, yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Karen,
Thanks,
I have a follow-up. My button, my raise hand button
Uh-oh,
is telling me that it's not working. It's telling me that for some
it is
reason.
not,
Yeah,
but go
it's not,
ahead.
it's not working. Chief, how much money would you say you know, is balance, you know, how much of a balance is there for those that, you know, the co-pays or the amounts that are not covered by insurance? If you had to guess, how much would you say you're leaving on the table?
I can't say. I don't know the answer to that question. I wouldn't want to misspeak.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough. I mean, you know,
I
not
wouldn't want
knowing
to
is,
misspeak on that one.
that's fine. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to tee off for a second on Nancy's question about, commercial versus residential fees and whatever. Westport is an extremely, in full disclosure, I own no commercial property in this town anymore. So I don't have any skin in the game. But I just wanted to say that knowing the uniqueness of not having water, not having sewer, the small businesses in the town, what if we separated, and I'm just picking up a number, let's say that we increase the residential versus commercial rate by 25%. I don't know, just pick a number. Would that really move the needle in a $54 million budget? I mean, are we really,
Al, are you talking about the tax rate or the chief's
no,
inspection rate?
the fees for for the fire department. That's I should have made myself more clear, Cindy. And we have a revenue problem in this town. There's no question about it. But the question then becomes targeting one group of people or classification over another. I think we need to really rethink that, or at least think about that. Not rethink it, but rethink it in a way that sees what it adds to the revenue of the fire department, what it adds to, or what it subtracts from the small local businesses that, every other town in the area, and Dan, you can make the point, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but think of another town in the area that you're talking to that has well and septic systems and not town water.
Look, just for clarification, I'm not targeting anybody. I'm asking a question about
targeting was a-
residential
was the
versus
wrong word.
commercial. It's a
Targeting
question.
was the wrong word that I used, and
Okay.
I'll take that back. So
Thank you.
let's not get into that. What I'm saying is that two classifications of residential versus commercial at two different fee structures, two different tax rates and whatever, has never, up to this point anyway, proven to really move the needle when it comes to the need for revenue for the town. And so that's, I just wanted to make that point. And there are unique situations in this town, in a negative way, really, when it comes to, I know I've said it way too many times, town water, town sewer, except for the the narrows. They kind of make these a moot point to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, just the fire prevention office brings in about $27,000 to $30,000 a year on average in permits and fees. Your regular residential structure, again, is inspected upon the sale of the building, $50 fee. You take a business like Trips Boatyard, for example, that has fuel storage, fuel hose, and general inspection. There's 3 inspections in one. That's going to cost that business $150 annually. So, those commercial buildings, they are paying an annual fee versus the resident. With a resident, you buy a house, you don't sell it for 30 years, you only pay that $150 fee. A business and a commercial business, whether it's a garage, a hotel, a grocery store, a restaurant, they're paying annual inspection fees. So they are paying more than the resident to an extent. While the fee may be the same across the, in terms of dollars, $50 for the permit, they are also paying for multiple permits each year, multiple inspections. So they are being in all, they are being assessed basically a higher fee than a single family dwelling residence annually.
Thanks, Chief. Pew, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
I just want to say, I think there's a big difference between the tax rate, commercial versus residential. That's just a number that's assessed based to raise money. Fair enough. And I agree with the fact that assessing commercial higher under the circumstances we have really wouldn't make much difference. Sounds to me like the fire department's approach is perfectly sensible, but all I was going to say was maybe worth taking a look at the amount of time involved in doing the inspections for various commercial activities. Boatyard's a good example. You don't want it to burn down. You want to make sure it is a highly risk kind of environment, that the storage of fuel and so forth is done properly, etc. So there, I don't think necessarily there's need for an increase, but I think there is an opportunity for a review of the amount of time that is spent in doing the various inspections cumulatively for this kind of organization. Time means money expended by the town for salaries, etc., as opposed to the revenue that's actually brought in.
Fair point.
Yeah, and I would just, remind the committee that our fire prevention officer, again, it's one person. In addition to the inspections, which is multiple throughout the day, he's also covering our station. He's responding to medicals. He was on a hand line today in that building fire. So he's essentially 3 jobs in one. If you look at the city of Fall River, my wife works at a very large business in New Bedford on the waterfront. When they have a fire inspection there, she actually was sending me pictures. The fire prevention officer comes, a ladder company comes, an engine company comes, the battalion chief or the district chief comes. There's multiple companies, and when I say company, fire companies that provide an inspection in a lot of those environments. Where Westport, we don't have that luxury. I would love to be able to put 2 guys in the engine and say, head out with the FPO and conduct a thorough investigation of this, a thorough inspection of this building. Which again, we're there. Our inspections, we don't do inspections to collect fees. We do inspections to make sure the environment is safe for people to visit, to shop, to stay overnight, whatever it may be. It's nothing that we want to rush through. It takes a lot of time and follow up. You're almost guaranteed to find a compliance issue. Usually they're not deliberate. Usually they're just general oversights. If people are trying to run a business, they're not thinking about the fire department and the prevention bureau most of the time. So there's follow-ups more often than not with a lot of these buildings. It's a pretty intense job.
I'd say I'm sure you're
A
doing
lot of responsibility and liability.
the right thing and the right approach. My only question was to see whether the amount of revenue for doing appropriately intensive inspections matches the amount of time and maybe
Got it.
resources committed to it. That's all.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Duncan, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chief Baldwin. I think we're nibbling around the edges here with inspections and revenue. I mean, the big story that I've heard from Chief Baldwin is he needs another firefighter. So I think that's where we need to go. And I think we need to stop talking about $50 inspections. Thanks.
Thanks, Duncan. Appreciate that. Does anyone else? I mean, I agree with you, Duncan. I mean, to me, the story is the one additional firefighter is the big issue with this budget. But I do support, any department to be looking at all its revenue sources and to see, is there any opportunity to increase it or to at least discuss increasing it. But then you have to determine how does that impact the residents, and is the value of the revenue increase really worth it, what it does. But I do encourage, we should be looking at all revenue and all opportunities increase it, to discuss it, but, anyway, does anyone else have any other questions on chiefs, on the fire budget, for expenses?
If I could add just one quick thing, I
Yeah,
know
sure.
we're running on time here, but it is important, and in terms of revenue. So community paramedicine has been around for a little while. We don't do it here in Westport. What basically community paramedicine is somebody's discharged from the hospital. They are now home. Maybe they need IV fluids, they need antibiotics, they need, medication, what have you. Paramedics are now going to these homes and treating the patient there. Sometimes they're assisting with telehealth. One of the main goals behind it is to avoid the patient going back to the ER. Our ER and hospital system, as you know, they're overextended. And so this is one of the reasons why that program came up. We touch on community paramedicine a little bit with our Westport Cares program, but if we can evolve into community paramedicine program, which you don't necessarily need an ambulance to do it. A lot of departments are using vans or whatnot. You can go out to these homes, you can treat these people, keep them at home, keep them out of the hospital, and it may provide another source of billing. So if we were to provide vaccinations, for example, I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe when the town nurse provides vaccinations, I believe she obtains their insurance information and they're able to bill their insurance provider for homebound vaccinations or flu clinics that they may run, et cetera. If we were to start doing things along that line, not taking away from the town nurse responsibility, I'm talking about something a little bit more in depth with, fluids and IV fluids and IV antibiotics, et cetera. That there is potentially billable. And again, if we were at 4-6 person shifts and then we had 6 people on, all 6 of them being paramedics, we may be able to send a duty crew out for these appointments essentially, and bill and bring in revenue. We are exploring that. My EMS coordinator is getting information on community paramedicine. We're making sure as a department that it's something that we can actually provide, that our staff is on board with it. There's a lot of training that comes with it, but it's something that we are actively looking at. Just talked to Haley very recently about, is there a billing mechanism for this? And she's trying to get answers on it and to see if that's something that we can do. And I can keep you posted on that, but that there would certainly bring in some more revenue. We're very much looking at that. That's the future of EMS. That's the future. And if we don't jump on board with it, we're going to be behind.
Thanks, Chief. Hugh, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, that sounds like it overlaps some of the visiting nurse kinds of things in terms of people discharged from the hospital. The hospitals agree with you completely. They desperately want people not to come back to the hospital after they've been released because it has adverse financial effects and billing, et cetera. That's not the same thing as vaccines and other things, but I think there is an overlap, which you may already have in mind, and may already be discussing. But I think if you haven't, that's something I think to keep in mind.
Will do.
Thanks, Hugh. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, applaud the chief and his crew for looking into alternatives. I think that is a really valuable next step into overall healthcare, especially in a place like Westport, that the demographics get older and older as we go. And, I just, whatever works and whatever, I just want to applaud Chief Baldwin and whomever else is involved in exploring these other options. Not necessarily, although, the finances are part of it, of course. I mean, we are the finance committee after all, but just overall healthcare in the town. I just want to give a thumbs up to them for even thinking about that.
Thank you. And we have been in contact with a local hospital system. I won't mention the name at this point, but we have been in contact with a local system regarding a program like this, mobile integrated health and community paramedicine, and they expressed an interest in potentially wanting to work with us. We've even explored doing transfers. So a Westport resident goes to an area hospital and needs to be transferred back. They would be transferred by us back to home and assisted back into the house. And that too can be billable.
Thanks, Chief. So I'd like to keep us moving. So we do have a few other budgets to go, but I want to make sure Chief, you have the opportunity if you have anything else that you wanted to add.
No, you know me, I could go on for hours trying to
Yeah.
explain what we do.
No,
And I apologize for that. I know we're always long run, but there's just so much to try and squeeze into a
It's a-
meeting to help us for another year. And there's just so much more to say. We did get $130,000 earmark from the state. We received the $56,000 grant from AFG. We are awaiting the release of a $19,000 grant. So we've had some good financial assistance this year, and we will continue to apply for grants whenever they become available.
All right. Well, thank you, Chief, for coming. We appreciate it. And thanks for all you and your whole department do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Good night.
Bye.
All right. So our next budget we're going to do is the Recreation Department with Dana Stewart. And I think Dana was here. Let's see if she's
Hi,
still with
everybody.
us. Ah, she is. Hi there. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I will turn it over to you to talk about the recreation budget.
All right, well, thank you for having me this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as I go over things. I sent a packet to everyone. I hope you had a chance to glance at it. Just referencing the front page, I always like to include some photos of our recreation programs and events, because what we do is very visual and very happy and joyful most of the time. So I hope you got to see some of those great pictures. They range from our adult pickleball lessons we had, a booth we had at the police night out, kids in our nature camp, our youth rowing program, our art week camp, talent show performance on stage, and our summer concerts, our events such as our Easter extravaganza, our Halloween event, adult art workshops, our new cheerleading program that we did. So that's kind of just a sample of everything that we do throughout the year. It's been 7 years since I started the department back in December 2018. So it's been a pleasure to grow this department. And right now, in terms of the fiscal year 2027, it's pretty simple. And the general account is my salary at 32 weeks. And then 2,000 that the select board had given us for just general expenses. So that's kind of our general account, very simple. Everything else that we do comes from the revenue that we generate from the programs that we offer and the fees that we collect, as well as the rentals for the annex gym, which has really increased too. I did include in the packet also, there's new software with the finance or accounting system. So I asked them to pull just basically the records from July 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. So it kind of gives you a view of that. And right now they're saying our current balance in the revolving recreation account is $139,889.01. So I feel like that's a very healthy balance for a revolving account. You know, we do have expenses throughout the year, but we're also bringing in money. Looking at comparables from the fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025, we have increased our revenue from programs and gym rentals. So in 2024, our program revenue was just over 45,000, and for 2025, it's almost 79,000. So that's a good increase. And then our gym rentals in fiscal year 2024 was about 13,500, and our gym rentals for fiscal year 2025 are over 18,000. So our total revenue for fiscal year 2025 is $96,774.50. So I see that as a example of how our department is growing, how more and more residents and non-residents are seeing the value in the programs we offer and signing up for them. Can I answer a question for Mr. Morton?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead, Hugh.
I think you've done a remarkable job. I remember the deal when it was set up that you would eat what you would kill, as the saying goes. And the town was not really on the hook for much of anything. So it's even more remarkable. The only question I have, nothing to do with that, is there are pickleballs that are under consideration for YWA.
Right.
I'm sure you know about them, but I'm curious if there's any connection, crossover, or just two people or organizations doing similar things.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Morton, for your compliments. I really appreciate it. And yes, so right now, and I was going to get to this, but you probably already know, we finished our annex playground project, which we're very happy to do. And now we have been getting funds mostly through CPC to get started on the playground and actually park improvement project for Bicentennial Park. So that has been a big focus right now. And I'm happy to announce we are able to start installation of the playground aspect of that park in spring 2026. So that's a really great thing. And that's a multi-phase project. So because our department is involved in that, when a couple community members approached me and asked me about tennis courts and pickleball courts. Mostly they were disappointed that the high school decided to make the courts off limits to the general community during school hours. I understand, school safety is very important, but I suggested to the community members that because we are actively getting funds and working on the park project, that they could work on getting funds for the tennis and pickleball project. And I spoke with the president of the Westport Youth Athletic Association. I tried to connect those community members with him. And then I also gave them examples of how to fill out a CPC form application, the process of that. So I met with them in person about that and gave them a lot of information. And I'm happy to see that they are moving forward with that. Obviously, they're going to have to get more funding than what CPC might be able to provide. But the idea is that it would be for the benefit of the community, and the recreation department is fully in support of this, to create pickleball / tennis courts at the fields off 177, which are overseen currently by the Westport Youth Athletic Association. So yes, I've been aware of it, helping them. Just our department isn't actively doing the fundraising per se.
Yeah, thank you. I can report that, because I remember CPC. Obviously, grant from CPC is recommended to the town, and the town meeting makes the grant, but it is being looked at favorably, put it that way. And I do know that they are being very active and off the mark very quickly in terms of looking to raising money for the balance.
Yes, that's wonderful. I really applaud community members, if they're passionate about something and they want to advocate for something like that in terms of recreation and the community, it benefits everyone. I think that's wonderful. And also I sit on the open space and recreation plan meetings. So I've been involved with that as well, just as a side note. And then in general, I'll just present that we also have been getting, regularly our Helen E. Ellis Charitable Trust grants through the Westport Cultural Council for our summer concert series and outdoor movie nights. We have planned to apply for that again, and those are very popular. And then also we, on that front sheet I provide in the packet, illustrates at the bottom the different CPC funds that have been allocated to the recreation department for that improvement of the playground and phase, which I mentioned earlier. So we're excited to move forward with that. And Other than that, I just want to make you all aware, we do have a gift donation account of just 1,300 right now. But this past summer, I did approach the select board and ask permission to use those funds for possible scholarships for families in need who might want to enroll their children in camp but can't afford the full amount. So we are planning on using those funds for that this summer. And also I learned that we have a Bicentennial Playground Trust of just $539. I think that the Treasury Department told me someone set that up many years ago. And so we have that. And then a Community Center Trust of $1,436.40, which I'm not sure who set that up, but it's there. So we can dip into that if needed also for park or community center purposes. Community center, people call the annex gym, I think in the past, the community center. So right now I've been struggling with some wall repairs in there. And we just had a painter do some wall repairs that we paid for out of our recreation revolving account. Unfortunately, it wasn't completely successful because it's starting to bow and peel again. He said he thinks it's the plaster work underneath that. He's I'm working with him to try and rectify it, but that might be funds that we can dip in to just continue to solve that problem. I'll just report too that our expenses,
Dana, one second.
Yeah, sure.
Gary, who's the name not available, has a question for you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Dana. Just to reiterate what you had said, I think, going back 3-4 years, we were very hesitant on the seed money that we had to start this program, to start the recreation department off. But I think you've done an unbelievable job in the last 3-4 years to turn this into a viable department. I just want to make sure, I know when you mentioned the use of gyms, that we're able to tap into as much scheduling time as we can with the high school, the new high school. And I get that, the schedules that need to be worked out and this and that, but the school was developed as a community school. And I want to make sure that we're able to utilize that space as much as we can for the programs that you want to maybe, think about, or, that we don't have to go to other locations in town. We have a great school. We have a great gym. We have all the facilities right there. And I just want to make sure that we're utilizing every minute that we can.
Well, thank you. Again, I appreciate the compliments. Thank you very much. So right now we rent out the annex gym. That's the gym and space that I oversee and handle, and our department directly gets that revenue, which helps our department function. Unfortunately, I don't handle the old high school rentals of that gym or facility. And it's my understanding that whenever someone has to rent that gym, they do it through the school, through Kim Ouellette, and that usually they have to pay for a janitor or custodian to be there and open it and close it. And so they get that revenue, is my understanding. Our department doesn't see that. So right now I don't have anything to do with that, other than I do talk with Miss Ouellette if I need to use the gym for purposes such as our upcoming Easter extravaganza event. Easter happens to fall at the end of March, I believe. So, March, you never know what the weather is going to be like. So I decide to rent that, and we are charged a fee, our department, for use of that to pay the custodian. So it's worth it. It's a great big community event that we run. But I just wanted to share that information.
Okay. I think the point I'm making is that we want to be able to have the facility available for us. And I get that it's the schools and it's the town, but if we're looking for revenue and there are programs that we can't utilize in an annex because it's a smaller space, or we can't go to the high school, I think that any collaboration we can have with the schools to try to promote any other kind of, recreation program. And like I said, it's one big pot of money at the end of the day. So, I think that we need to look at maybe some other alternatives at the high school, because again, it was a community school. And I think that having to charge one department over the other, that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I think I agree. And for me, it's a budgeting issue. So if we do a program at the old high school gym and I have to pay a custodial fee, I have to incorporate that fee into the fee for the participants that sign up. And that drives the fee up, which means not as many people might sign up. So if we were to be able to be waived that fee as a town department, that would help us tremendously. And we would utilize that gym a lot more. I guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, again, it's as a community school, we should be able to utilize it.
Gary, I think the answer is the old high school belongs to the selectmen. And it is not part of the school, other than they may have been given the control for various purposes. So I think the question is really with the selectmen.
Well, yeah, whoever it's with, I mean, it's really, it's a town building. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not a school building in which the school has complete control of the structure.
Yeah.
I think you're at the town building under the control of the selectmen.
Yeah.
So Dana, before we go on, and then Nancy, I know you're up, I wanted to just follow up with what Gary was asking. So I'm interested in the annex, for the gym that you have in the annex, which is under your control, not the old high school, which we're not talking about.
Right.
How often is that rented out? So is it rented out 20% of the time?
It is
50%
rented
of the
out every
time?
single night of the week, multiple renters. So I can have anywhere from 2 to 3 different renters renting it in one night. Because they might rent it, say, every Monday for an hour, and I could have like back-to-back renters. And every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it's rented out to birthday parties, and various events and things. Most of the time, the weekends are for people who want to use it for birthday parties, and through the week, it's mostly for sports. It's indoor soccer, futsal, basketball, even indoor tennis. I even had someone who wanted it just for basic baseball drills and skills. So a variety of different sports and activities.
So you said nights and weekends. What about during the weekdays?
So during the weekdays, it's in the lease with Cautamunk Nursery School that they get to use the gym for part of that time in the morning. Although, they're very agreeable and flexible if need be. And then we have a play and learn parent taught group that is in there a couple days out of the week that were grandfathered in when I first started. And they are all grant funded, and they don't pay a fee because they were grandfathered in, and we help advertise their programs that are free to families as part of our offerings too. For example, it's on our website, the Play and Learn class, but they have to email the contact through Fall River, and then they get to be in the program if they have room, and it's free to our community members. So it's a really nice arrangement, but they don't pay a rental fee because it was just set up that way before I started.
Because I was just curious, because we all hear the Council on Aging needs space, right? So why can't they use the annex?
They can. Yeah, they can. I've spoken with Beverly Bish in the past. She had said she was interested in setting up an exercise program at the annex. I said, happy to have you guys there. And we don't charge interdepartments. So like if the Board of Health needs it for a blood drive and it's free, they use it for free. So it would be same for the senior center. But then she said, and I forget how long ago this was, but she said that basically it wasn't going to work out because a lot of seniors just wanted to stay at the senior center, that they didn't want to go to the annex. So that was just what she had mentioned to me at that time. I don't know if things have changed, but I'm always happy to talk to Bev about working with her if she has a need.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Nancy, go ahead.
So I know that, I guess I hit a sore note when I asked about fees, but let's talk about it because it's got to be the same across the board. The high school, the old high school, runs the school. They still have their extended day program over there. So we're providing, as Al said, our community, our residents, a service to our parents that have children in school that can extend the day so they can work. And the only place to put these kiddos right now is at the old high school, because our middle high school, which Gary says we should use all the time, if you actually went and talked to them and why the time is restricted, you have a 5 through 12 building on site. You're
Mhm.
running middle school and high school sports out of there. Girls, boys, volleyball, basketball in the winter. You've got, you're continually revolving with kids in that building. There's not enough gym space for the middle school and the high school as it is, even though the gym is actually cut in half. So the use of the high school gym has always been optimal. When the school administration moved out of the old high school, that when the school was there, you had your administration and your extended day. Contractually, the janitors were there to clean the building because the schools were obligated, obviously, because they were operating out of the building, to clean the building and maintain the building, which was the deal with the town. So we maintained on that particular budget, we always had to deal with any of the issues within inside the walls of that building, albeit unless it was something catastrophic. So now that the administration has moved out, extended day is still there during after school hours. The whole operation of the system now should be looked at by the select board. I agree with you and Dana, because there's been a change of use again on that building. So now you don't have the administration there. You definitely need to have, obviously, the facility cleaned after someone uses it. I don't think that I think so the janitorial use, whose budget is that going to come out of? So the schools aren't going to have a recreation come in, pay a rent, and then they're going to pay the janitorial people to clean up after that. So I think that that's the conflict there. And potentially if the select board would take more of an initiative with that space, that would be a great space for recreation. I've always thought it was a great space for the Council on Aging to grow some of their possible dinner programs because of the handicap access. The full kitchen is there, and it just hasn't been utilized. I know that there were invitations to the Council on Aging to come over to the old building. I think, Dana, you recall that period of time. There was an issue with some of that community that it wasn't air conditioned during the summer, so they didn't want to be there during the summer. And then during the winter, there was some pushback about coming over. But outside of that, and I think Chris has his hand up, and I know that that's part of his thing on the long-term building use. But I just wanted to explain, like, there is extended daycare there. The janitorial service provides that, and that comes out of the school budget. But when you're looking for additional, then I think that would have to be a responsibility of, yes, the town should use it for recreation. Yes, the town should absolutely rent it out, and then be responsible for dealing with the custodial aspect of it to clean it after the use. And I think if that is taken care of, then you wouldn't have the logistic problem with the school. As for moving over to the new building, that's tight. I mean, I think Dana can tell you how tight it is over there to try to get the schedule. The problem with the tennis courts was the time of the use. The time of the use was when the schools, part of their phys ed program was to go out and use those courts. So the safety risk of having people out on the courts and then you have kids coming out to use a part of that facility to that area for phys ed, you couldn't have it. You can't have people that are not quarried and then have the kids mixed in. So that's where the timing and things were alternated. But my understanding is that whole tennis that wanted to come wasn't recreation. That was a privately run tennis operation. That was a revenue making for that private individual. It wasn't the town rec program, was it?
It's not town rec. It is two private community members, but it wasn't my understanding that they were doing it to make money. They're trying to fundraise so that they can get the funds to build the facility and have it be open to the public. There's been no talk of like scheduling or anything like that. It would just be open courts that the public could use. One of the selectmen did ask me if we'd be open to having our department help the Westport Youth Athletic Association with facility scheduling at that location. But I mean, that's just to be determined, and I don't know how extensive that work would be.
But that
So-
gym over at the old building is underutilized. It clearly is.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the recreation department budget tonight. We're not talking about the old high school and the uses of it.
Well, I
So-
kind of think it was kind of part of it, Karen, when she
It-
brought up the use and we talked about revenue and having the use of these areas. And I was merely trying to
Right.
explain what the limitations of those uses were because I had personal
I-
knowledge, but
Right.
I'm fine with stopping
Yeah, I
that
think-
conversation.
I think the framework of, I think we've defined the recreation has use of the annex and for many, many reasons beyond that. I just don't want us to go into an old high school use discussion here, because that's really not the purpose of the recreation department budget right now. So, Christopher, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. To your point, I won't dive into all the specifics.
Can't hear you.
Is that any better at all?
Much better.
All right, excellent. So to your point, I won't dive into too many specifics here because I do recognize this is, we're talking about the recreation budget. I did want to mention that there is actually a school administration personnel that is still located in the old high school as well. And I will say, Dana, I agree that I think that there's some more that can be done as far as I guess coordinating the usage and coordinating the rentals and everything. It is an issue where, of course, the custodian would come out of the school department budget as it stands right now. I am hopeful that will change in the future all the way around, and so just wanted to kind of put a cap on that for right now. Of course, we'll get into old high school discussions down the road here coming up actually the next few weeks. But yeah, bottom line is I do agree. I think there are opportunities for the rec department to utilize that space coming up sometime in the future, one way or the other. So I appreciate what you're doing right now in the annex, but hopefully in the future there'll be extended square footage for use. So.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I just want to make it clear
you.
that our department and myself are very much willing to partner, work with the school, work with the Council on Aging on any and all opportunities. So
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
That's a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down to tonight, but thank you.
But I guess to answer your original question, the annex gym is very well used. I think I think people think it isn't, and I don't know why. I think people sometimes come in to vote at that location and they think, oh, this space is only used for voting or something like that. But really every day out of the week throughout the year, that space is being used. And I just want to give a shout out to our one maintenance man, Andy, who just helped replace nets at our basketball court in the annex gym. He's been super helpful for me, and I just really appreciate his help. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Before you go on further, I did have a question on your revolving account. And
Yes.
this is really a question, and I know Hugh or Chris Vitale might have some information. Is there a limit on how big the revolving account could be? Because I think sometimes it's been explained to me that in order to collect fees, you need to have a purpose to spend them. So it's not an account that you can just grow endlessly. There's a purpose for it. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but maybe you can help describe what the purpose of a revolving account is and how big that can grow without a specific purpose, or maybe you do have specific purposes for that balance.
It was explained to me that the revolving account is set up as it is for the recreation department because this is the one account where all of our expenses come out of. And so when our revenue comes in, our expenses are going out. Our expenses for fiscal year 2025 averaged just over $59,000. And that includes instructor fees, recreation software, mileage, professional development, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like we have a huge pot. It is constantly revolving. And that's how it was explained to me versus an expenditure account where you have a larger chunk of money that does sit there unless you need to use it for a specific purpose.
Karen, if I could add to that.
Yeah, could you,
If you'll remember on the town warrant, we have various revolving accounts that have capped dollar amounts on them. So the ambulance, the different groups escape me now that have a warrant article that caps the amount that their revolving funds can go up. And every few years, each department that has one increases their limit. I had brought up the issue that recreation is not included in that cap. And I believe actually Nicole had given me an explanation that very similar to what Dana just brought up, that because of the nature of what they use it for and that it funds their budget the way it does, unlike an enterprise fund, which is different that we use for marine services, but in a revolving account like this, recreation did not come under the same rules that other revolving funds do.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know the real legalese to it,
Right.
but there is an exception for the way that their revolving account runs.
Great. Thank you for that. Chris, go ahead. You might be able to shed some more light for us.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to piggyback on kind of exactly what Cindy said. So, it's set at town meeting, do the warrant every year. So, you'll notice every couple years you might see some of those amounts, those caps adjusted, based on fees or costs, that the department's anticipating. And every single revolving account has a little bit of nuance to it. But like Dana said, obviously in this case, she's using it for, services, departmental services. So, obviously going forward, if there's an adjustment that we need to make there, it'll be on the town meeting warrant and, we'll put it before the voters, but.
Thank you.
But
Thanks.
I guess there's no cap at the state level that I'm aware of
Okay,
outside of what we set annually at town meeting.
great. Thank you.
Avoiding the more accurate jargon we're talking about, I call it simply an operating fund. Incomes and revenue out the expenses. And I know they're more, Cindy is probably more accurate and Chris is probably more accurate, but it seems to be that's what it is. So it'll accumulate if you're making money over time. Then there may be a time for an adjustment. And meanwhile, it's simply what comes in and what goes out.
Thank you. Well, I know there was a previous finance committee member that always had some challenges, and maybe it was more enterprise funds than a revolving account. That may be what I'm thinking of. But kudos to you, Dana, for growing that balance as high as you have.
Thank
in the
you.
last several years. So that's, I'm not being critical of it. I think that's fantastic that you were able to provide as many services you had and have maintained that. So, and if you're saying your annual expenses were 59,000, so you've got some good cushion in there, which is really,
Correct.
really terrific.
Yes, and I mean that is on purpose. I want to make sure that our department sticks around and that we are healthy and operating at a good level. Also, with this larger project of the Bicentennial Park, there's been talk about possibly the recreation department taking on the landscaping and maintenance of that on a regular basis instead of the highway department, which is still to be determined. But that's a perfect example of like, okay, well, if we're going to take on that expense, then at least we have, some to put toward that if needed, possibly. So anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. All right. I think we interrupted you with a whole series of questions when you were halfway through your budget presentation.
No.
I don't know if you have
it
much
kind of
more.
naturally evolved. So I think that was about it. Yeah, no, I think that was about it. I will send it off to the next department for their presentation.
Anyone else have any questions for Dana before we let her go? I don't think so. I think we're good. So thank you once again for all you do, and you have tremendously grown this department since we kicked it off 7 or 8 years ago. So congrats to you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. All right. So our next budget is the assessor's budget with Theo. And I think hopefully Theo's stuck around. Let's see.
I am. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks
Good
for your
evening.
patience.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me at your meeting. I am presenting the assessors department budget. Our overall budget has an increase of 3.58%. I'll start it off with the wages. The assessors salary and myself, the principal assessor, we're looking at a 3% increase. The full-time staff in our office is a 3.707%. Longevity for the staff is 8.33%, and that represents overall wages of 2.78%, which is about $7,100 increase in our wage category. On the expense category, we have postage, the same. We're not asking for anything extra, even though the postage has had an increase over the years. We're trying to keep the cost down by, instead of mailing out all the forms every year, what we're trying to do so far is mail out postcards reminding taxpayers, homeowners, business that forms are ready on a website to be filed when it's the right time. It really helps out because we have a lot of forms going out every single year, which is like, income and expense statement, form of lists, chapter land applications, statutory exemptions. Those we probably will still mail them out because those require a little bit more caring. We also populated our real property and person property database with all the emails as much as we can. So in the near future, we just email out the taxpayers, the homeowners, the business owners, that such forms are now ready on our website and, with information when they need to file. And obviously, if anybody needs, or any business or any property owner needs these forms mailed to them, we'll still do that they request, but we're trying to cut the cost, that includes a lot of paperwork, a lot of, postage. That also includes office supplies because now we don't have to order as many, supplies to, the other thing, the only other, higher increase we have is on a computer software. That's a few factors happen here. One of them, we've been talking to the planning department about splitting the cost to update our maps. I spoke with Mike Burrs, and the board has agreed to split the cost to update our maps. So we added this year $1,700 to that line item. The other increase was we have also updated our real estate camera system. We upgraded to a cloud-based platform. That was in April of 2025, so it was a slight increase. We also had a little bit of an increase on an EMAP, which is our high resolution imagery system. The next line item is travel. We not asking for any increase. We do utilize the electric vehicle most of the time to do field review and to do property inspections. That will save us in fuel. As long as I, charge the car and stay within the same location and don't put the heat on, I'm okay. It'll last me a few miles. The school, as far as meetings in school, we're not asking for any increase. The only other increase we have is on a dues. The Massachusetts Association and the Bristol County Association, overall, there was a 22% increase, is about $100. So overall, our expense is $3,365, which represents a 9.25%, with an overall department increase of 3.58% for fiscal 27. And that wraps up our budget.
Thank you, Theo. And you have a question. Gary has a question for you. Go ahead, Gary.
Hi, Theo. Yeah, and also don't use the windshield wipers because that might decrease the mileage too. So, are we expecting the major reval? Is that going to be in FY27?
No, that's
Uh,
FY 29.
Oh, 29. Okay, so we're not expected to do anything until FY29.
Well, we have a,
Mini val, yeah,
we do our annually, which is our
right.
mini reval every year. And we also have a cyclical inspection program in place. We've had that for many years now, several years before I started here. So we continue doing that, which is through an article.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's good. Not till FY29. That'll probably be an article, I'm assuming, somewhere down the road. Now, as far as new growth, what are they budgeting for FY27?
I believe Jim put in 400,000, I believe.
Okay, so that's on target on what I guess you're seeing as far as new building permits and whatnot. So we're capturing 400,000 new growth for FY27.
I believe, I mean, Chris could probably confirm that. I don't know if he's looked at what Jim had put in, but I believe it was $400,000.
Yes, that's right. 400,000.
Okay. And do we see that trending, has that trended downward over the last couple of years, or how does that look in comparison to other fiscal years? Or like the last three, I guess, if somebody knew that information.
Well,
It's been, oh, I'm so sorry. So it's been going down. It's been going down a bit, or I would say it's been pretty stagnant. We did have a couple of high years, and I'm just going back to 22. Where we saw a little bit more new growth, but there was a dip in FY26. So I think Jim's approach was to be a little more conservative this year, just because he didn't know where it was going to go this year in comparison, from what he saw in 26.
Yeah, and we're looking at maybe no new commercial growth, but probably very very minimal housing development too.
Yeah.
Across town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's the only questions I had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Theo.
Thanks, Gary. Any other questions for Theo? Theo, you've got a very simple budget, so we appreciate having a simple one after the two we just had. So
I try.
Don't take offense to no questions.
Oh, no, I don't have any. I'm good with that.
Gary, I think you got your hand still up, but I think you're all set, right? So, okay. Anyone else have any questions for Theo, or we can let her go? All right, Theo, I think you're all set. We appreciate your coming in tonight, and thank you for your budget and your memo and everything you do for us all.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right, thanks. Good night. All right, so our last budget of the night is the planning board, and I believe Michael is here. Hi, Michael. Thank you for your patience.
Sure thing.
All right, so I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, so first I'll just talk a little bit about what the planning board does, because we do a lot of different things with different projects. So the staff, we provide technical assistance to the board when we're reviewing subdivisions, site plans, and special permits. And so this kind of ties into what you were just talking about. We have seen a bit of a decline in development review applications being submitted to the planning board over the past 5 years. So what was Chris was speaking about also tracks with what we're seeing development wise with the planning board. And so when we do have new developments, we'll go out with our consulting engineers and work with the fire department to monitor those developments as they get built out. We've also really been trying to make an effort to get old permits closed out with the planning board. We still have things on the books from like 2010. So we're trying to get, people to move forward on those and get them closed out. And then we're responsible for long range planning projects, and we apply for grants pretty aggressively to support those. The kinds of projects that we work on with our grants it's a little bit of everything. Last year we received both grants and technical assistance for about $288,000 to draft management plans for 3 barrier beaches, plan for salt marsh loss. We're going to be doing some traffic calming on Old County Road. we'll be looking at reworking the zoning on Route 6 and doing some culvert redesign projects. So without the grants that we apply for, we probably really wouldn't have the capacity to do all these different projects. So they're really a capacity multiplier for us in terms of the professional services line item budget, which is where we get most of our, or that line in our budget is where we get most of our grant match. So in addition to all of that, we end up doing a lot of project management for projects that, because some of these projects will go over a couple of year period. So for example, last year, we were implementing 10 different grants that had an $879,000 value. And that was to produce things like a hazard mitigation plan, a housing production plan. We're doing some bike path planning and Berry Beach management plan. We have almost all of the town development-oriented departments on online permitting. We're working on completing the Board of Health's portal. And we're doing some work at Hicks Bridge. If you notice, we over the summer, we had installed some new floats over at Hicks Bridge. So we're kind of busy in a lot of different places. Even though that development is down, we're staying busy with these types of projects. So when it comes to my budget, this was a pretty straightforward request. I'm proposing a almost completely level operations funding. On the staff side, there's just the annual 3% increase. But on the operations side, I am asking for a little bit more money this year just because technology costs have gone up. Our mapping software that we currently use, which is ArcMap, is being discontinued on March 1st. It's not, and the program will cease to work at that time. And so we need to upgrade to what's called ArcGIS Pro, which the licenses for this are substantially more expensive. So for reference, previously an ArcMap license was $819 for 2. That's total for 2. And now for 2 licenses, it'll be $4,400. It's a very substantial increase. This has been in the works since we've known about this for at least the last 7 years, but this program has been under development for a while now. But we've kicked the can down the road for as long as we can. And we do need to upgrade in order to have, to update parcel data annually. We can start to use extra capabilities of this program to do geolocation of like stop signs and culvert, or storm drains and things like that. So that way we know exactly where everything's located in town. We obviously create maps and do spatial analysis as well for some of our long range projects. If we were to have a consultant do all of this for us, would probably cost us $100, $125 an hour to do that. So it really makes sense to have the program done in-house, or to have the program so we can do the work in-house. I am trying to cut back on a little bit of the request just because I'm not asking for 2 full licenses. I'm asking for 1 full license, which is kind of like the full suite, the full package that you get with the full capability of the program to do data editing, and more advanced spatial analysis. And then there's a partial one that I'm requesting funding for that would only be the creation of maps, and so this was recommended by both Jim Hartnett and I spoke with Chris about it last week. So yeah, that's my budget. There really aren't any other changes besides this one request for increased funding in our computer services line.
Thanks, Michael. Go ahead, Hugh.
I'm just going to say, I assume you talk to the IT department, make sure the upgrade is compatible with whatever else is necessary.
I have forwarded that to Keith already. I know they're planning on doing or potentially planning on doing some upgrades to computers next year. So that would be great. Because I think it will need an upgrade, if anything, to at least boost the processing power of our computers. Because if you're trying to run multiple applications at once, it can kind of lag. So, yeah, I've let the IT department know about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, it doesn't directly apply, but I remember a year or so or two ago, the French ordered new railroad cars and found they wouldn't fit through their stations. So it is important to make compatibility work.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions for Michael? Another simple budget. We appreciate, Michael.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any other questions for you. We must be all questioned out from our last couple.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael, for coming. Appreciate everything you do with the planning board. And I don't know if we'll see you again on any planning board articles or not, but we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Karen, I'm sorry to jump in, but Jim has his hand up.
Oh, Jim, go ahead.
We will have planning board articles really quick. Our planning board hearing is on February 10th. So those are forthcoming.
Great, thank you.
Jim, no need for MBTA zoning.
No, hopefully this year. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to put my 2 cents in for something else that is not in our budget. But I think the state requires towns of our size to have a tree warden. And we don't have one. And we have a lot of trees that could possibly kill somebody. And it would be a small amount of money. I don't know whose budget it would go into. But the tree warden should be an arborist, and it could be a part-time position for $14,000 to $18,000 a year.
I think that's what the selectmen, doesn't it, for general posts?
I don't know.
We used to have one many years ago. We used to have a tree warden here, and I thought it was a budget on its own.
We used to have a tree department
Right.
years
right.
ago. So, but this is a personal thing for me. A tree fell on me as I was driving down River Road, totaled my car. And if I hadn't slowed down just a tiny bit, it might have come right through the windshield and killed me. And there are tons of other trees that are in this category. And maybe Chris can take the horns and try to figure out what to do. But it is something that I know that Chris Gonzalez thinks he's the tree warden, but we can't find anything that says that he is, and he's not an arborist. So I just wanted to throw that out so everybody is aware.
Jim, what do we do now? I mean, if a tree goes down, do we call the highway department? Is that what the process is?
That's what happens, yeah. But I'm trying to be more proactive so that trees don't come down and they can be taken care of before they kill somebody. So I'm sure that Chris Vitale, the new town administrator, can figure this out. But I think the requirement from the state level is that you have a tree warden. And we don't have one, so.
I'm happy to look into that, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that.
And thank you for listening to our short budget.
All right. Thank you for waiting. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And congratulations for being alive without the tree warden.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you both. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Okay, so that's our budgets for tonight. The next item that I have on the agenda would be any update to the fiscal 27 budget. this is a standing item on our agenda now, just in case there's something that comes up. This way we can talk about it. Chris, if there's nothing new, you can just shake your head and say nothing new since last week. That's fine.
Nothing new, although, the first budget from the state is expected to come out middle of next week. So,
that's good news.
yeah, so I do know in years past, you do get a little bit of a preview going into the annual MMA conference going to this weekend, because the governor will be speaking at that event. So hope to have some news going into the weekend before next week. But just like prior years, we do budget conservatively. So, anything that we get, hopefully we'll have a little bit extra that comes back to us that can help us with a couple of these things that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
That's all we know. That's a suggestion of the legislature.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So I put on the agenda to talk about the capital improvement planning committee warrants, because that got circulated to everyone. But before we go into that one, Chris, is there a draft warrant yet? Is there anything?
So at this point, it has not been put together. However, we have been getting in, different requests from departments, as well as our different boards who have expressed interest in getting on this year's warrant. Now, in terms of, the first time this is going to go before the board, I believe it's their first meeting in February is when we do have plans to discuss that. So, prior to that, our plans to put together, and then that's just going to be kind of the working draft. And then from there, we'll work with town council as needed on a couple of the different articles. So we might have some placeholders in there. Everything that I've gotten so far has been pretty standard year to year.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully no big surprises.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's always helpful to when the first draft is available, so we can just get a quick gauge on how many might have financial implications, so we can think about scheduling our meetings and presentations to us if there's, whatever comes up. So,
Absolutely.
So far that's good. Good news. So far, nothing new yet. So, okay. So the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, I know a couple of questions were being discussed last week. Did anybody get a chance to look at the presentation and have any questions on it?
I had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So they did send us the request, but we do not have, from what I could see, the backup data as far as what were the priority 2s and 3s. Like, what was the full request that was whittled down to this particular list? I think you had mentioned something about that last week, Karen, that you wanted to see the full list. So we should ask the request of CIPC that they provide us that full list. And I also did not see a 5-year plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I didn't either. So, right. So though, absolutely. So I think the 5-year plan is important, as well as the ones that didn't, the requests that didn't make the cut, right? That are, of course, valid requests that just didn't make the cut. That would be helpful.
Right.
So my question will be to Al, because Chris is new, so he wasn't on the committee at the time. So if we look at, and really looking at the 5-year plan concept, so if last year we had a 5-year plan, my sense would be, as you walk into this year, you would largely know what your requests were going to be, because they would have been made in a 5-year plan last year that just now move forward. So I'm curious if that's the case, or if you really got a whole new series of requests that came in this year that were not already incorporated in your 5-year plan.
No, that it's a good question. And my recollection is that is that what we were doing was just rolling the past into the present and then looking at you know, at the future and having presentations from whatever department, highway, you know, it doesn't matter, police, fire, to come up with a list of the 1, 2s, and 3s. So I honestly can't remember what the 2s and the 3s were. I know we put that together, but the 1s really percolated to the top as far as, you know, necessity, if you will, to fund. It was trucks. I mean, that have been there for 25 years and were rotting on the tires, for example. I mean, that would be, you know, one example of many. And we have a lot of that. And it really is truly mechanical in nature. And we have pushed off a lot of this stuff, you know, a lot of these expenditures way beyond their you know, useful life. I guess that's the best word I can describe it. So,
Al, if I could ask a question.
Sure.
So the items that made the approved list this year, by and large, were items that were a high priority last year that did not make it. Were all of the items that are being approved on last year's list?
I would say that 80 to 90% were exactly what you just said, Cindy. Okay. I mean, there and off the top of my head, I can't remember. There may have been one that percolated to the top that was an outlier, but by and large, you know, I know at one point I spoke. Excuse me 1 second. Let me just shut this door.
Sure.
I know that the one that was percolating, and I mentioned to the harbor master that you know, good luck getting it, was that they had tossed out an idea of getting a fireboat. Okay. And that was brand new. I candidly, my recommendation was don't go there. Yeah. For a variety of reasons. But the one of the notions was to rehab the harbor master shack. That was about $100,000, I think, you know, plus or minus 50 to 100. But you know, we all know how things are today. It's 100, you know, and possibly a little bit more. That I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that's a relatively new one. I don't believe that was brought up by Chris and Gary as assistant harbor master last year, but the rest of them were just slow incremental increases.
That was brought up a few weeks ago and then withdrawn.
Oh, they did withdraw it. The shack itself?
With a request for
The
doing
request?
here. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I missed that memo, Hugh.
I think you were in London.
I probably was, and probably a good thing that I was. but regardless, most of them have just gone through the process, and in answer to your question, that have gone 3, 2, 1, and every year, of course, whether it's a truck or God knows what else, has they're not getting any younger. You know, I mean, it's so.
So Al, have you seen? Are each of the departments actually providing you a 5-year plan of their capital? Or because when I talked to Jim about this before, what the town has is the 5-year plan.
Right.
Isn't necessarily a 5-year plan. It's a plan for what we've been provided and then scheduled out over 5 years, which is not a 5-year plan.
No, it is not.
Right. And so I'm just curious if over the course of the years, if you're getting a 5-year plan from the highway department, from the fire department, from the school department, from all the departments of what they're looking long-term, what their real request needs.
Karen, that's a great question, and I'll answer it as briefly as I can. I think they try their best, but they can do a lot better. I don't think we get a 5-year plan. We may get a 2 or 3, but I don't believe that we get a 5-year,
Right.
budget request, pardon me, for capital improvements.
So
Yeah,
my-
Karen, I think to chime in, Karen, I know we talked
Yeah.
about this in the last meeting, but a true capital plan not only shows what's been awarded, but shows what's outstanding. So a 5-year capital plan is great, but we should also see the projects that don't get funded.
Mhm.
And that's really a true capital plan.
Right, so those projects would either be in year 2, 3, 4, 5, or
Yes.
somewhere, so we should be
All
seeing
right,
those.
point well taken, Gary, and I'll bring that back to Dick, who is still currently chair. Chris, now you're going to be on the hot seat as far as, sitting there, and we'll work towards a more comprehensive plan. I mean, I do believe that we are planning as part of it, but I don't believe
Right.
that we're planning it to the extent that you're speaking about it.
Yeah, and then just one more question for you, Al, since I'm
Sure.
peppering you with questions, so.
That's all right.
So and I know the other point that we've been doing is we have our capital stabilization fund that we continue to try to put dollars in it. So my question is, and this all really all comes to a true 5-year plan. So as we continue to put dollars into the stabilization fund, which I'm in full support of, but there also needs to be, well, what are we going to do with those dollars, right? Is there a point that are we saving for a particular thing? Or, are we saving, for example, I'm just making this up, the next fire truck, which
Right.
costs $1 million. Is
Right.
that, so this way, an expenditure of that nature then doesn't break the bank on capital expenses. Is there discussion of how the stabilization fund would be used?
No. Not that I remember, quite candidly. But again, another great point, and one that I will bring to Dick and the CIPC committee sooner than later.
Great, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I didn't mean to pepper you. with
No,
so
no,
many
no,
questions.
that's fine. I mean,
without Jim being here is the legacy, right? So you're it. Tag, you're it.
well, remember, whatever I don't know, I'll make up, Karen, so
Right.
don't worry about it.
Thanks. Chris, go ahead. You can chime in on any of the questions or comments that you have.
No, I mean, just, obviously wasn't here back in December when some of these discussions were had on the the current plan for capital. But what I would say is just one of the things that my hope is to get into with the work of the CIPC is just looking at our process for capital as a whole, because there's so much more that goes into it when it comes to the methodology for scoring. When we look at the information that we're collecting from departments, if there's a request that rolls over to the next year, does that change its scoring? Does the pricing change? Are we capturing, any of those increases, in our estimates here, that we're tracking? And then to your point is, there are some things that come up and are unexpected. But there are things that we know about, and that we should be tracking to the best of our ability. I'll say vehicles is one of them. Depending on the type of vehicle, what that life expectancy is, when you're putting it into service, or you have
Right.
an idea of if it's, I'm just making up, if it's 5 years, 100,000 miles, right? Or maybe it's one of our larger trucks and it has a lifespan of 20 years. Well, we know that, and we also know what the lead time looks like. So I think to your point about the stabilization fund, that's not the only source for capital. We also have Chapter 90 funds. We have other state grants. And so, as we start looking at, I guess, some of the requests that come in long term, one of the things that would be my goal is to sit with the departments and say, okay, when does it make sense to start chasing the dollars, right? So that it aligns with, our funding schedule locally. So I think there's definitely work to be done. I think, to the points that mentioned, I think departments are, there's a system in place where they're submitting those requests so they can be considered. But always more work to be done, and
Yeah.
definitely looking to get further into those conversations in this upcoming fiscal
Yeah.
year. Because
We appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah,
Just, and Al, I did have one
Yeah,
more question
please.
for you.
Here I am.
So last year, for last year's capital improvement, there was a particular, and I don't remember the detail, there was something that the highway department needed, some equipment that they were saying they urgently needed, but they just didn't make the cut last year. And the same thing is now. So is this the same piece of equipment that they requested last year?
I will have to get back to you on that, Karen, and I don't remember details, and I don't want to speak out of school.
Okay.
Karen, they've been asking for this truck, which is under the gross value weight, where they're allowed to hire somebody without, the necessary licenses, so that they're able to put a plow on that and utilize it. I would only suggest that, because I'm the liaison to the highway department, that and it's an open invitation from the highway surveyor, Chris, to go out there and look at the equipment that they have. I mean, some of this stuff is circa 1950, and they do their own repairs. They do as much as they can, but at a certain point in time, this equipment breaks down and it's no longer usable. It's no longer, we can't get parts. We can't get anything.
Right.
So, a small contribution, I think the truck was $65,000 or $70,000. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was put in for the capital request this year, which, I get it. It wasn't approved, but I think at some point in time, we really have to start looking at, we have the police on a replacement for their cruisers. Remember, this equipment is going out in the most severe weather. It breaks down on these guys that are out there. So my recommendation, and I'll make this once we hear the departmental budget next week, is that we do fund that piece of equipment for the highway department. Again, I just encourage people to go down there and see what they do and see the equipment that they're using, and it's just incredible.
Gary, I'm just gonna tip my hat to you, because you're absolutely right. And I would add into this, the cemetery department is another example of stuff that is, one of these days, you're just gonna see a chassis on the ground on one of these vehicles.
We've seen it. We've seen it, and we've seen it. I'll run it down.
It is crazy. And this is purely my opinion. I think it's crazy that we are asking our highway department, fire department, police department to patch these things together with bubble gum and rubber bands, when we need to replace this stuff. Now,
260 miles of road, 68 square miles. This isn't a small town. These guys can be up near Fall River and down at the harbor. And I know that we just, kicking the can down the road on equipment that is vital to the services that residents require day in and day out is important. I think that's important. And if we have money left over in free cash, we can chip away at some of these things. And I think it gets back to what Karen's saying. What are we not funding?
Right.
What doesn't the public see that keeps on? Okay, it's a third year. Now it's a fourth year. So, at some point in time, we've got to address this stuff.
All right. Well, I'm going to get on to Dick Brewer tomorrow and have a cup of coffee with him, and we'll sit down and we'll get this information out before the next meeting. So if there's time to discuss it, that we will, Karen.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that'd be great. And that's, the same question on the capital stabilization. So again,
Okay.
the plan is to put money into the capital stabilization, but if there's an absolute current need today for some piece of equipment, it doesn't seem to make sense to me to put it into the capital stabilization without a specific purpose that you're saving for, when you can use it today to buy an essential piece of equipment. That's what I'm just trying to, round it all together.
Do we know what the balance is in that account, Karen? I don't know if anybody knows.
No, I don't.
Karen,
Go ahead, Hugh.
all we want to say is that this is not exactly a new discussion.
No, I'm sure.
No. It's probably
About
from
2 years
1960.
ago, as I recall, we borrowed $1 million for the operating budget and replaced a variety of things. I remember Al's comments from the 20-year-old, 40 or 50-year-old trucks that were breaking down all the time you turned around. It's all the things that are saying are pretty legitimate. Why haven't we replaced various things? We didn't have the money. It wasn't a matter of lack of desire to do it. It was inability to do it. So let's not beat the dead horse. Do the best we can.
So I guess I'll ask Al one last question. So I seem to, I don't have the list here in front of me. I was just trying to pull it up, and for some reason my computer is locked, but there is no highway department allocation on this year's CIPC list. Is that correct?
No, I don't think it's totally correct. And again,
They're getting a generator.
they're getting it. Yeah, they're getting a generator. But as far as the trucks that are needed, I don't believe that is part of the of this year's take on it.
Okay. But there is a new pickup truck for the school department.
Yes. Yes. And there was some questions and jiggling around about one department had a better truck or a better pickup truck, and could we shift it over to another department or whatever. I personally feel that this whole, and of course the taxpayers are going to feel differently. We've already seen that with the override question. I just feel this is nuts. There are serious needs for capital improvement in a variety of town things. I'm not talking about a printer. I'm not talking about being on the cloud. I'm not talking about IT. I'm talking about, to Gary's point earlier, what if you're down in February at the end of Westport Harbor and the damn truck breaks down? What if you have a fire truck that breaks down when it's going to a fire? I mean, this is all critical stuff, and we're messing around with in the scheme of things, crazy short money. We got a $54 million.
You're not telling anybody anything we don't know.
I know, Hugh.
The
You're right.
reason it hasn't been done is lack of funds. If you've got a money tree in your backyard you haven't told us about, then maybe you can contribute it. But otherwise, we're here because we're here.
Well, it is nothing new, but when we don't show in the memo what list of requests were not approved, we're not giving the general public that knowledge for them to see what's not there. Right?
Section to lists and showing what is, so forth and so on. I'm just talking about our talks about going on forever about the things we can't do. That's all.
No, you're not wrong, Hugh. I get it, but it just frustrates the heck out of me.
I know it's frustrating, but as a matter of fact, they're dealing with reality when you have to deal with reality.
Maybe I'll live in my bunker up in the woods and not deal with reality.
All right. Anything else on the capital improvement? I think we peppered Al quite enough, right?
No, you've and you
handled it so well.
You've done well. Yeah.
We gave him the all seasoning.
Yeah.
Salt,
That's right.
pepper, the whole thing.
You did great. All right. I just lost my agenda, so 1 second. Okay. So enough of warrant articles. So the next item is committee or liaison updates. Does anyone have anything they wanted to share?
No.
Not really.
Okay. And the next item would be the minutes, but I would like to pass over those because these weeks go by way too fast and I have no opportunity to have updated the minutes to kind of soften them a little bit. So
Football games interfere. We didn't get anything done.
what's that?
I said football games interfere with getting anything done.
Actually, my regular work interferes. That's the problem. All right, so we'll skip over the minutes and I'll try to make a commitment that we can handle all of them next week.
I
Correspondence?
will remind you.
Thank you. Correspondence, I have no correspondence. So the next budget meetings are January 27th, which is next Monday. And that's the beach.
Monday or Tuesday, I'm sorry.
Tuesday. Do I have a wrong date?
Yeah, you said Monday.
Oh, sorry, Tuesday, the 27th. And that is the beach, highway, and town accountant. And then the following week on February 3rd is the Westport Community Schools. And we will do that at town hall. So we'll try to do that as a hybrid, but the recommendation is, all committee members where possible to in person, and hybrid would be if you can't make it, then that's an option, or for the general public too, but try to come in.
And also I wanted to let Gary know that the diamond is coming in February 24th.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, so they've invited their director of finance and the superintendent to attend as well.
Is that a formality, Cindy? I mean, do we really have a any say in the outcome?
No, but it would be nice to know their process, and it would be nice to know that, they have questions to answer, and particularly since their school opening will be, I would think, of the next school year. I would think their operating costs are going to go up a smidge. And what can we expect for higher assessments going forward? I mean, I think they're valid questions that we should be informed, at least knowing what we can expect going forward. It is a formality, but at least we would have the information.
Yeah, it would be good info. I just didn't know to what extent. I mean, we're just kind of sitting there listening as opposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Fine. I don't want to bog a meeting down. I just was asking. Okay.
Yep. All right. So I have nothing else that came up within 48 hours. Does anyone have anything else to add to next week's agenda other than our budgets and our standing? Okay. If you do, let me know, because I'll probably turn this agenda around tomorrow to get it posted. So since
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Ooh, second. Yeah.
Second.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
We get a lot of
All right.
ears.
So I'm going to do a roll call. So Cindy,
Cindy Brown, aye.
Duncan,
Duncan Law, aye.
Zach,
Zach LeBrew, aye.
Al,
Ellie's eye.
Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Gary,
Yes.
Christopher.
Christopher Thrasher, aye.
We heard you. Just barely, but we heard you. Yes. Okay. Nancy,
Nancy Stanton Cross, aye.
Karen Rouse, aye. All right. Thank you, everyone. See you in a week.